I was big into gaming. My computer game addiction started when I was 13. And I think, it's still with me a little bit to this day, but it kind of evolved into trying to win the game of life, if you will, if you want to denominate it in currency. I think that might be what fuels me to like want to keep growing my businesses and adding new income streams and whatnot. So definitely a good question, but man, like I didn't really take things that serious until I was 27. But even before then, like I always made money, but it was never like something I took seriously. When I was 27, I was like, all right, been working a real job for a while now. I know this isn't it for me. So now I need to see what else is out there. And that really was when I got started being serious about this stuff.
So when you talk about having a real job, like what was the career field you were in? How did you get into that? Like, say coming out of high school, that kind of time frame, what did you think your life was going to look like?
Yeah, I had no clue, man. Like, I guess we all just wanted to be rich when we grew up, right? Like, that was probably the most common answer. We didn't, it's like, wait, what do you mean when you say you want to be rich? Like, I don't know. I just figured it would work itself out. For me, like, my computer game addiction that started in middle school lasted through high school. When I got to college, I'm there at orientation with my parents. They were like, all right, man, you're going to go be an IT major, right? And I was like, I don't know. And they were just like, just do it. You know, you love computers. So I did that, listened, took their advice. And that led me to becoming a web developer. As soon as I realized like there's something to this being proficient at building websites, and obviously you can monetize that skill set in a bunch of different ways. So I was launching my own websites in college to become a better developer, and out of college had my own like LLC immediately, because everybody needed something for a website done. So I had plenty of business there just through word of mouth. But even with like those side hustles, and I ended up getting a master's degree in IT and becoming a teacher for web development, two things I never planned on doing. But I just was like, what's next? What's next? Is this it for the rest of my life? That scared me. So I did all those things and was making, a lot of money in the sense of like on a relative basis, but it was a lot of work. Not that today it isn't a lot of work. Of course it is, but it's a lot more passive today than it used to be. Like I can go on vacation and make money while I'm gone. And back then that wouldn't have been the case.
Well, I think you're underselling yourself quite a bit. So you're like, oh, I didn't really take this stuff seriously until I was 27. And then you're like, oh, I had this business building people's websites. I was a developer straight out of college. So at least at that point, you knew that making money outside of a day job was possible. It wasn't like you just jumped ship when you were 27, zero experience in making money outside of your day job, and all of a sudden you were a successful entrepreneur. It sounds like the breadcrumbs are kind of leading back to maybe in college or right after college when you start to do this web development stuff. Is that when you first started making quote unquote side hustle money?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Because while I worked 9 to 5 as a web developer, getting that guarantee salary, it was definitely a lot of free time. Because that job is only as hard as it is. Different developers need different amounts of time to do the same thing. For me, it was like pretty easy, so I had plenty of downtime. Fun fact, I read the Bitcoin white paper in like 2013. Unfortunately, I didn't buy any. Also Dogecoin too. I just couldn't figure out like how to buy it, but yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I was like, damn it, why didn't I do that? My gut was telling me. But I ended up spending a lot of that spare time building up the side hustle, building up my own websites that I would monetize through Google AdSense and through other, you just kind of learn as you go through direct deals with different companies. And to this day, I still make side money doing that, but it's kind of like one of those things where I just like, can't say no. When people want to give me like $100 for 10 minutes of work, I'll just take it, but it's just like completely unrelated to what I do, what I'm known for doing, I guess you could say. Yeah, so I built up that, but it was very active. Like I would charge web hosting fees, but it was so low, you could never get rich charging those fees. And I also didn't know what my time was worth. Like I had imposter syndrome straight up. Like I didn't feel comfortable charging $100 an hour or $200 an hour, right? Like maybe I should have been charging that back then. Instead, I'd probably charge like 15 or 20 and just gradually increase it as I got more confidence. But I think that's something that probably most people can relate to.
I think it's interesting thinking about using those little maybe gaps in your day job, like for those who have, the normal W-2 day job to start to build something else on the side. And a lot of times, whether it's during the day, during that day job, or even at night during our free time, people put off side hustles or building a business because they're like, well, my time is worth more than this. I'm not making enough. But yet, if they're not doing that, they're actually not doing anything with their time. And so is their time really worth more than that? So like when you're talking to people and coaching people, is that like a big part of what you would advise people to do is like, hey, if you've already got something stable, start to build this in the fringes, start to like carve out some time, whether it's during that day job or in the evenings, and get something built up, and that way you can transition into it.
Yeah, I love that framing. And for sure, like I try to remember what it was like when I got started, what fueled me. Like for me, one thing I have going for me is like I'm just not a quitter in the sense that like if I get started and something is hard, but I see the light at the end of the tunnel, like I know I'm gonna go and finish it. Like I don't struggle in that category. Like I will do the work, and I don't have like self-doubt in that regard. So I have that going for me. But like if you join my free email newsletter, the first automated email you get literally tells you to figure out how many dollars per day you currently earn. So if you just have your 9 to 5 income, like divide that by 365, figure out your dollars per day number so that you have like a little bit of a more short-term understanding of what your time is worth. And then I feel like it makes it almost like more understandable to break it down into bite-sized chunks of like how can you increase your dollars per day little by little. You know, there's so many opportunities these days. Even if it's like $2 a day, you know, if you multiply that by 365, you don't feel like it's so minimal. But if it's $2 a day, nobody cares, right? But if it's 700 and some, it's like, oh, okay, I care about that though.
So I'm gonna spotlight you here, Ryan, because I know you're a humble guy and you're too humble to share some of these numbers. I just want to know what the heck happened in these 2 years. You clearly figured something out. So this is an article published November 9th, 2022. This 33-year-old makes $14,600 a month in passive income. 2 years later, 35-year-old making $49,000 a month in passive income. What happened in those
Yes.
2 years? Let's just like break some of that down. Like you were doing so many things at once. I think we could probably just riff on this for the rest of the episode because I know you were working on so many different side hustles. I guess let's just kind of paint the picture. What were you doing during these 2 years? Like what were the side hustles that were comprising all of that monthly income?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about that. One thing I'll say though is the first article that said like 14 or 15K, like it was meant to be scoped just print on demand.
Okay.
Okay, so that was that. That's why that number was lower, right? Obviously, like I know you're on YouTube too, right? Are you on YouTube or just the digital?
A little bit of both. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So like, my whole thing is like I would love being transparent about this stuff. Like I had my day job. I was like, okay, I'm working too hard and it's not passive enough, so I'm gonna start working on the passive stuff. At some point, the passive stuff exceeds my day job income, right? And so I also, what was it like maybe 2018? The gurus start popping up, right? A lot of them are fake gurus, and notably, I won't name who, but like, and it's funny because this guy actually messaged me. He was like, "Great stuff," and I'm like, "Oh man," I'm just like laughing in the back of my head. Like, he inspired me. This one guy inspired me to start my YouTube channel, knowing that I would sell a course because I could tell it was an FBA guy. He's had multiple courses, but his FBA course was clearly like just not good. You know what I mean? Because you could tell if you sold FBA that he didn't know what he was talking about. And I was like, I'm going to save these people from buying his course by offering one because I actually do it successfully and I know what I'm talking about. And he clearly doesn't if you've ever, you know, anyways, that's how I got started. That's what inspired me. And, you know, ultimately, like that was a nice little compliment. The YouTube side, you know, making AdSense through there. A big thing that helped me jump from, I don't know what the real number was. I could pull up my tax return, but it was definitely probably at least like 2x the 14 K a year to jump to like almost 50K a year. A big one in terms
A
of
month,
that
right?
jump.
A month.
Well,
You said a
that was a
year.
month. Yeah, a month.
Yeah, a
Yeah, a
month.
month.
Yeah, not a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
All good.
Yeah, a lot of it was honestly learning like how to monetize like you as the brand in terms of like brand deals, YouTube, stuff like that. I inadvertently kind of formed a mini group. Like I always write people's contact info down after I network in our space with, you know, like-minded entrepreneurs and stuff like that. And I like kind of inadvertently formed a small little like WhatsApp group. And I learned a lot just through that group having been formed, different people doing what I do, kind of sharing their experience. And next thing you know, I'm like, wait a second, y'all are charging how much to mention this piece of software in a video, right? Like I had no clue. I was underselling myself in a major way. And I also am just like I said, I'm a grinder. Like I put the work in when I want to like be serious about something. So I did daily YouTube content for at least like I think 3 years, like every single day, 7 days a week. And so I put out a lot of content just to get better, get the reps in. And then if you kind of do the math of like figuring out what your endorsement is worth, if the software actually warrants it, of course, that spiked my income quite a bit. In just that was a big one, honestly, from growing it from like 30 to 50K almost a month.
Well, and as we break down what you're like actually doing, you mentioned one acronym there that we make sure we want to like give for the listeners. So FBA, like what is that?
Yeah, I'm happy to break down the other things too. I was just gonna say that in context of jumping, like what Cody asked, a big jump was just
Big
like
loaded question. Yeah.
not selling myself short on YouTube and those sort of endorsements and whatnot. Um, but my other income streams, like the real pillars that started before I had a YouTube channel, a lot of them intersect at e-commerce and specifically at Amazon, the number one e-commerce website in the world. You guys are probably familiar. I started selling Amazon FBA products under my own private label brands. So I would essentially, like, I've actually been to China. You don't have to go to China to do that, but I've been. And you essentially are forming relationships with manufacturers that can produce like the raw products themselves. When it comes to picking products, people will ask me, like, in real life, they'll ask me like, what do you sell? And I'll just say, honestly, whatever the data tells me to sell. Like, I do not care if it looks like there's a good opportunity and I can find a manufacturer, crunch the numbers in a spreadsheet, and it looks like it's going to be profitable. Like, obviously different profit margins, but you want to go to the most attractive ones. I'll get out there and I'll get after it. So at one point, I think the most SKUs I ever had active was like 15. So I had 15 different products, probably across like 3 different brands. And FBA's only gotten harder since then, especially since COVID. Like, the inventory restrictions that Amazon places on me keep getting tighter and tighter. So I can't like keep my products in stock. So currently today, like, I like to be transparent, I have 3 SKUs that are active from 15. So and they weren't all winners when I had those 15 too. You trim the fat. But that's really how I got started. And honestly, right around the time I figured out, I should say with FBA guys, like, a lot of us have purchased on Amazon Prime products. With FBA, what I do is I'll have the manufacturer ship. Well, I have a shipping guy in China too. I met up with him when I went. I'll have him ship them straight to Amazon's warehouses. So I don't really need to touch the product. And after you build a relationship with the suppliers, like, you can bank on them, doing things the right way. And you can also pay for inspections, but after a while, I don't think you really need to waste your money on that. So it goes straight to Amazon. I don't touch the product. They receive it. They put it on the shelves. I've even been to an Amazon fulfillment center. There's only like 6 or 7, I think, in the US that you can visit. And it's a long wait list, or at least it was. I had one that was like an hour from me. So I've even seen what it's like inside of those places. Not a great place to work. Honestly, if you ask me, you have to wear headphones because it's so loud. But I've seen the shelves. Like, I've walked the shelves. You see a million different types of products. And around the United States, my products are just mixed in. And when it sells, Amazon associates, as they call it, they don't call them employees. They will pick, pack, and ship. There's also robots that sometimes lift the entire shelf and drive it to the employee, so the employee doesn't have to walk. And they ship it to the customer. I mean, it's pretty cool, very passive.
So to break this down in a couple sentences for the listeners who are like, oh my God, that was so much, Ryan. Basically, FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, you go and find a manufacturer in China somehow. I don't know if you're using Alibaba, one of these other sites. They have some piece of technology, some gizmo, some gadget that then you take, you contact a manufacturer, you essentially do the marketing for them in the US. You get people in the US to buy, and you kind of make like the middleman spread. Is that essentially it?
Yeah, except I'm more like the face of it. You know what I mean? Because I put my own private label,
Oh,
like,
because it's a
brand
white
on
label
it.
product. Okay.
Yeah, so I will go and like trademark the brand name, get into Amazon brand registry, check all the boxes that should be checked, do it the right way. I feel like to be competitive today, you really need to like go in with that expectation. When I started I started late 2016, got my first sale early 2017. Back then you could get away with like not doing it to the fullest extent, but today it's so competitive. You really need to go in and do everything right.
Okay, so Fulfillment by Amazon doesn't sound like it's it today. You said it's a lot harder. You went from 15 products or 15 SKUs to now 3 SKUs. In one of the most recent articles, actually, you talked about like a couple $0 side hustles, your favorite $0 side hustles to start. I know you still do a lot of those today. I don't know if you want to dig into one in particular, but you're doing a lot, man. So I want to unpack as much as we can from your brain.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess you could say I did FBA. I built some websites like in college that I still make money off of, like direct brand deals. AdSense kind of got crushed, so that was good for like maybe 9 years, I think, almost a decade. And then they decided they didn't like the content on that website, so they just said no more AdSense. But still make decent money through direct, like, sponsored links, sponsored posts, etc. I do print on demand as another big and most notable, probably attached to my name, as an income stream. And that is where like the t-shirts that we wear are probably the most common product, where like it started as a blank t-shirt. Like this shirt I'm wearing is a black t-shirt. It didn't used to have my Ryan's Method logo on it. But after I purchased this, right, like I said, okay, take this brand of a shirt in this size, in this color, and I want you to put this design on it. The company that received that order, they went and they had an employee go find the exact size, color, brand shirt, run it through a machine, queue up my design to be printed on it. Next thing you know, I'm wearing a branded shirt, right? They ship it out to me and I didn't have to touch it, right? There's a million ways you can go about online business. You can fulfill your own orders. If you want to start print on demand, you can go buy a t-shirt press. We actually have one downstairs. I basically got it. You could say for free as part of a sponsored video, even though I had to pay for it, but I, made some profit off that video. But my goal is to be as passive as possible. So for me, like I highly recommend in 2024 or 2020, whatever, if you guys are listening to this episode down the line, like look into print on demand. As Cody said, it's a $0 side hustle, generally speaking. I like to take advantage of every opportunity out there in terms of like marketing my products. So I want to be on Amazon. I want to be on Etsy. I want to be on Walmart. I want to be on eBay. Amazon may or may not cost you money. There's a couple opportunities there and we can talk about them. Etsy is 20 cents a listing every 4 months. And then there's a new fee, right? $15 to open a seller account.
Yeah, one-time $15 fee. Yeah.
Yeah, now there's a one-time fee. So used to be free, but now I guess not. eBay free still. Walmart also free and still relatively new. I've been on there for over a year now. My goal is just to occupy as much online real estate, is what I call it, with products for sale that if they sell, get automated fulfillment, right? And so whether that's like FBA products that I imported from China under my brand, or print on demand products that don't even physically exist until after the order is placed. And that could be t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, like a million different things. Like there's just, if you can think of it, it probably exists as an FBA or as a print on demand product. That's really been my whole approach. It's just been methodical. Like I don't like to misrepresent this stuff. Like if I achieved outlier success for a period of time, maybe I had one viral product and it made me $1 million. Like I don't want to mislead people. And I'm not saying that there's people out there doing that, but like my approach has been extremely methodical. I have had big wins along the way, but they're not like so massive that it's skewed my numbers. It's just been kind of like a game of me publishing products over the years, more and more and more, occupying more online real estate and just scaling up my business. You know what I mean? The numbers kind of scale appropriately.
Well, you said earlier, like you're picking the products that the data tells you to. So if you're sitting down, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to come out with a new print on demand shirt, mug, whatever it is. How does that process start? How do you start figuring out what the data is telling you to make? Like what kind of designs you're putting on there?
Yeah, my favorite data to look at is on Amazon, but everybody has their preference. Like there's people that love Etsy as their go-to place for research. I don't know if there's a wrong answer, but Amazon gives us the best sellers rank of products. So I really like to leverage that. It's not an exact science in terms of I can't like look at a BSR. We call it bestseller rank or BSR for short. I can't like look at that number and know immediately like how many sales that product is making. Like depending on the category that it's in and the time of year, it could be a different number of sales. So that should be mentioned, but it does help us. And there's software out there. Like I really scrutinize for my FBA business, because you have to invest a lot of time and a lot of money. With print on demand, it's like a $0 side hustle. You can basically get started for free. But there's software like Jungle Scout that I paid for back in 2016. I've got like a lifetime license. And that's a really good, I think it's the most accurate tool in terms of like perform a keyword search on Amazon, run Jungle Scout, and it'll give you like sales projections for each product in that category based on its current BSR. That's really nice. And then obviously you just kind of weigh that against your competition. It's hard to get the exact number in terms of your competition, but that's basically the game. Demand versus competition helps you make an informed decision of like, should I be selling this product? If it's FBA, you need to go crunch the numbers, stay on top of those profit margins. Like that's huge. You need to go talk to the manufacturers. If it's print on demand, skip that step. You know what I mean? Like you still need to be profitable, but you don't need to be like as detail oriented, because with print on demand, like as long as you're padding your profits, like you outsource the fulfillment, I'm assuming you're not going to fulfill yourself. You need to know how much they're going to charge you for a t-shirt. Generally speaking, if you sell a t-shirt at like $19.99, you're making some amount of profit. You know what I mean? Amazon's going to take their percentage. Etsy takes their percentage. eBay takes their percentage, Walmart, etc. So factor those in, factor what you're paying the people that fulfill the order. and the rest you keep. And even if it's like $3 or $4 or maybe 5, I love the number 5 as a target for like a t-shirt. Just understand that, like, what did you do after the order came through? Did you do anything, or did it just automatically fulfill itself, right? You outsource fulfillment. In that case, what's stopping you from scaling like $5 a day to $10 a day to 20 a day, etc., right? And that should be your goal.
Can we walk through an actual brainstorming session of you think of a product idea, or you go into one of these keyword research tools and you start to look at stuff and you get excited and you're like, okay, I'm going to create this product that has this many competitors selling it. It has this much search volume per month. Because I know for me, I'm a digital product seller on Etsy. I love the long tail keywords. So they're a little bit nested down. There's fewer people searching for them, but generally that means there's less competition. And that's kind of where I thrive. I don't want to be competing with the big dogs. I don't want to be just creating the generic t-shirts or the generic mugs or whatever the equivalents are in POD. What is your process like, Ryan?
Yeah, so it's just funny, the juxtaposition of like FBA versus POD for me, because with FBA I will do exactly what you described and like really get, into the details. With POD, over the years, like my approach has evolved. At this point, I feel so comfortable doing it, over 7 years in, that I don't really even try that hard to go and like evaluate what's out there. I feel most comfortable these days being unique, and like obviously if I think my primary keywords are, we're recording this in May, in June, Father's Day, right? If my primary keywords include the phrase Father's Day, I don't necessarily consider that a bad thing, but I don't want that to be like my primary keywords, whether it's short tail, long tail, even. Like my personal approach is kind of like, I want to just make this kind of the math I do. If I can make one sale a year, just a year, one sale a year on any product that I upload and make about $5 profit, like how high can I push my annual income? And that really helps me with my niche selection to kind of zig while other people zag, be a little bit contrarian, because a lot of the talking heads on YouTube and stuff, like me being guilty of this, like we talk about the most obvious stuff, but it's almost like we're incentivized to, because our videos often perform better when we talk about the fact that Father's Day is coming, even though it's like, I don't really want people to be in Father's Day, or I don't think it's necessarily like where you're going to find the most success, but it's all relative. Like if you're on Etsy, I guess a different approach. I do most of my stuff optimized for Amazon. So there's a whole bias for like what marketplace you're really optimizing for. But yeah, like, I don't know if that was a bad job answering the question. Like, honestly, with POD, because it cost me so little to create a design and a product listing, I don't feel the need to spend too much time. Like, I'm very focused on my time being worth money and trying to be like agile and quick, or, give it the time it deserves. If it's FBA and my first order is going to be like $5,000, you know what I mean? Or 10 grand.
On the POD, just as an example, like maybe what's a product, a design that did pretty well for you that would maybe surprise people, that people are like, what? Like people are buying that?
I surprise myself all the time. Like I have so many really bad designs, or just like simple one word text based designs, like where it's literally, there's no context. It could just be a word. Like I've tried so many different things, and like some of the best, alpha that you can take away from this interview, anybody listening, if you are already selling print on demand, like just think about the reach that you get based on where you're selling. Like if you're on Amazon and Etsy, probably the two biggest POD marketplaces, print on demand marketplaces, you can sometimes get away with like just being the only person selling something. And you might, like, if you need validation before you're willing to try, then you'll never find yourself in that scenario. You just will not, right? But I've found that like over the years, if you go in with the one sale a year mindset, which can easily be more than one sale a year, I'm just saying, like, if you're willing to be the only person selling something, that's worked for me lately, where I, also as my business has evolved, I've leveraged a lot more like automation tools and AI tools and stuff like that allow me to achieve scale without as much grunt work as I used to put in. So that's kind of like where I've differentiated myself. And I mean, me in the past used to be like, I'm going to design all my shirts myself. Everything needs to have a graphic. I'm going to work on my graphic design ability. In like, oftentimes the results were bad. But to answer your question, like, I mean, literally the one word designs, honestly, like you can just go through a dictionary and just pick random words. Like I've uploaded a whole bunch of those where it's just white text on a shirt. It's just a word, and they'll sell, you know what I mean? And it's $5 minimum profit per.
Not bad. Okay, so to set realistic expectations for people, they probably aren't using all of the latest AI tools. They don't know everything you know. For someone who's just getting started out, let's say you sat down with someone for an hour, they watch a bunch of your videos, they're ready to do this thing. What's like the minimum amount of things they need to post before they can expect their first sale? It's probably not they're going to list their first POD item and it's going to go gangbusters and they're all of a sudden going to be making 30K a month or whatever these gurus are shouting nowadays. But I know you keep it real, Ryan. What can people expect?
That's why I love that, the first thing I try to teach people is dollars per day, dollars per
Yes.
day. Like if you make one sale a week, then divide however much profit you made, divided by 7, right? And like at least you increase your dollars per day by, 80 cents a day or something at the $5 profit mark, something like that. That's how I would recommend visualizing it. Um, I don't want to jump the gun here, but I do actually help some people with their businesses. I offer a done for you service now. It's kind of new. I just looked at somebody's account that I started 4 days ago, and after 4 days, he got his first sale and he made $5.03 completely passive profit. So that is not normal. It's not ordinary to see results that quickly. It can definitely vary extremely widely. But like you can see these results quickly as well. Like every product you publish, theoretically, if it's to like Amazon or Etsy, like that can be found by a global marketplace. Plus, Google loves those, domains and the domain authority at Amazon and at Etsy. And so you're going to get indexed not only by Amazon, but also by Google. And you can get traffic driven by both. You know what I mean? So you get a whole bunch of visibility. And obviously the layers go deeper. You can run ads as well. And you can pay Amazon for some of the prime real estate at the top of search results. And the cost of that is variable depending on your niche, your primary keywords. So there's just so many layers to this game. And that's what I love about it. After 7 years, like I'm still enthusiastic about doing it. I'm still getting nice paychecks as well for doing it.
So let's say you're posting something on Amazon, you're starting to create this listing. Are there some like top tips that you would give people for, hey, make sure that you set up your listing this way, make sure that the photo, this is like your featured photo. Is there any of these things that you found, hey, this is kind of no matter what it is, the graphic that you're putting on there, that this is the thing that the way you should structure your listing?
Yeah, for me, like I guess understanding the nuance between the different markets, Amazon, Walmart, eBay, I think you're good to go with like the standard white background product images. Like everything that I post to those marketplaces is typically through a production partner, like a company that specializes in fulfillment, and they have software integrations to get the automated detection of orders and the automated like fulfillment, and then they upload tracking for me. The biggest, company that I've used since 2017 is called Printful. You can start them for free, so I'd recommend checking them out. Why I lost my train of thought here. What was the question? Sorry.
Just around structuring the listing.
Yeah. When it comes to structuring your listing, like I think you can use the default images on Amazon, Etsy, Walmart. All right, editor, cut this. Ready, start here. When it comes to structuring your listing, I think you can get away with using the default mockups, the default images on Amazon, eBay, and Walmart. On Etsy, the bar has been raised, and they also have different rules on that marketplace. Like each market has rules. I think you need to go a little bit above and beyond with your mockups on Etsy, and everybody has different opinions. Each niche almost should be handled differently as well. So that's one thing worth mentioning. Beyond just the product mockups, I do think that the way your design is rendered on the mockup, if it's a t-shirt, like I think people need to, at a glance, know what it is that you're selling. And one of the biggest recommendations I have is kind of like understanding who is buying the product, regardless of the product you're selling, who's buying it and why are they buying it, right? Like if it's a Father's Day shirt and it's like a funny Father's Day shirt and you want to go make I keep my jokes in a dada base, is a popular one, and it's got the little floppy disk. It's like, what portion of that shirt should shine the most, right? Like you can use color contrast. If it's a black shirt, white text pops, really well. You can make, choices about like what color you put certain pieces of text. Like the database is kind of like the butt of the joke. So maybe you want to make that part pop, and then the little graphic of a floppy disk, it's not required, but a lot of people find that part funny because it's old. If you have a dad, obviously, you're probably older. Things like that, and the other part too is, okay, so how you lay out your design, just make sure people at a glance can kind of figure out what it is you're selling and that you meet the expectation. And then your SEO, your search engine optimization is kind of the third pillar, I would say. If it's like almost any marketplace, really, I think you can assist the algorithm in understanding what you're selling by just picking a few phrases, generally speaking. This is broad advice, but like phrases that someone would type into the search bar and include them in your title. So, because when you create these product listings and they have no sales history, the algorithm really doesn't know like what you're selling. Like they're trusting you based on the keywords you put in your title is typically sending the strongest signal. So, prioritize it as such. And if somebody like types into the search bar, whatever the phrase is, right? Like funny Father's Day shirt. I mean, it's a bad example because it's too broad, but or a funny Father's Day database shirt, right? And you have that literally as your title and it's an exact match. Like you have a decent chance, even with no sales history, of maybe getting an impression on page one. Like the Amazon algorithm, at least, each marketplace is different, but the Amazon algorithm does tend to give new listings a chance, right? And with the web developer background, you can use JavaScript to measure impressions. Like you at least know when something was seen, even if it wasn't clicked. But if it gets clicked, you also know, divide the number of clicks by the number of impressions. You get the click-through rate. From there, how many people bought the shirt on the product detail page. Now you've got the conversion rate. All of these things tend to add up over time and factor into your placement in search results.
So for those who don't understand still at this point how POD works, I've done a bit on Printful. I've sold some print-on-demand products. Basically, you create the design, and you could use a free program like Canva. I don't know if you use Adobe Suite like Illustrator or Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on your level of skill and how long you've been doing this stuff, but you can use Canva. It's free. I know people who've done that and made sales. Then you take that design, and then you can basically upload it to a software like Printful, and then just place it on all of these different shirts, mugs, sweatshirts, whatever. So my question is, how many products do you recommend putting a design on? Like, let's say you do make the funny database shirt. Do you put it on a regular shirt, a tank top, a sweatshirt? Add another 10 different products on there. I know there's just so many products out there for POD. What's your strategy, and what have you seen work?
So in 2024, like what I would recommend, because this stuff does evolve, like the game changes over time. I would recommend, like, if you are cost averse right now, so you probably don't want to go and start an Amazon Seller Central account for $40 a month, even though I totally love Amazon Seller Central. It integrates with Printful. I've got, a few 100,000 products listed through there. So,
Wow.
imagine,
Okay.
right? Like, yeah, like the numbers do come from somewhere, from a lot of work over the years. But like, so maybe you skip Seller Central, but maybe you do Printful. You go open up that Etsy account for $15. Integrating those two is 2 clicks. It takes 10 seconds to do. All right. Once they're integrated, go into Printful, click product templates on the left-hand side. Okay. This is not something that used to exist depending on like when you first learned print on demand. With their templates though, you can go and create like a single t-shirt. And then, when I say create, it's like you went to Canva, you created your text-based design. If you're a beginner, honestly, start with text-based. I know it seems like, oh, but I have to have a graphic. Trust me, you don't. And a lot of you guys will get in your own way with like, it's just a learning curve, man. I faced it, everybody faces it, but your first designs probably will not be great. But if you sell text-based designs, at least initially, you have a chance of making sales, probably better chance. So go Canva, and Printful has like a text wizard in there too. So you don't even really need Canva per se, but if you want to, Canva is very user-friendly and that's a great place to start. Export your design as a transparent PNG. I would say use the dimensions as a general recommendation. 4,500 pixels width, 5,400 pixels height. Export as a transparent PNG. Upload that file to Printful. When you make your product template, your first one, start with the product Bella Canvas 3001 t-shirt. Very common, very popular unisex t-shirt, low return rate, a lot of colors available. Start there, upload your design, place it how you want it. Generally speaking, like if you started with the dimensions I recommended, you probably don't need to touch it. Just upload the design and move on. You can select what colors you want it to be available for as well. As you go through the process, you can make it available on additional products in the Printful catalog. So just a low-hanging fruit example for beginners is you already got the t-shirt. Now select the Gildan 18,000 sweatshirt, and then also select the Gildan 18,500 hoodie. Okay, it's sad that I have these memorized, but that's 7 years in, like you
know
said.
what you're talking about, Ryan.
Yeah, go ahead and select a coffee mug. Honestly, the coffee mug designs tend to, like a t-shirt design translates, generally speaking, relatively well to a coffee mug. It's not going to be the full wrap design, but what you can do is when you place it on the mug, you can click once and it'll duplicate the design on both sides. So now it's on the left side of the handle and the right side of the handle. It looks fine. Like, and you can do this, I think, up to like, I don't know if the limit is like still 5. I think when they rolled it out, it was like 5 products, but create 5 products right away. You know what I mean? And then you've got 5, and now you can push them to Etsy and start just like that, you know, and it's just kind of snowballs from there. So that's really what I would say.
And when you do something like that, are you talking 5 different listings, or are you talking about one listing that's that design and the user can kind of just select from a drop down?
Yeah, great question. So it'd be 5 different product listings. Yeah, and on Etsy, I always like to be cognizant of the fact that like on Etsy you pay 20 cents 3 times a year, right? And you also pay the 20 cents every time it sells, but when it sells, you're, you know, factoring that into your profit margin. But it's like, you know, on Amazon Seller Central, you don't pay per listing, you just pay that $40 per month. And as you build the catalog up, that $40 a month just becomes like nothing. You know what I mean? I'm at that point where I've been paying it for over 7 years now, and I've got like hundreds of thousands of products, and there's just so many crazy tools coming down the pipeline that are doing like AI automation. I've got one running in the background every single day. I do literally nothing, and it just creates products for me. AI does the research, AI does the design, and it
Wow.
posts these products to my Seller Central account. Yeah, and if they sell, it's auto fulfilled.
Is it making sales? How long has this experiment been running for?
Right hand to God, I have not made any sales. It's not my
Okay.
software, but I know that it will because I look at the designs that it's posting, and it's just very much like evergreen. Like I said, 1 sale a year is all I need, right? So I've got, you know, I've been running it for about a month and a half now. It's from, I'll just give you the name. It's in beta, so it's not available for sale. Called POD Tomatic, from the makers of POD Turbo, which I used for years as well. But with POD Turbo, I had to make the designs and I had to create these like CSV spreadsheets. So about 3 or 4 times a year, I would just sit down and queue it up for the next like 3 months, and it would create 200 products a day. Was like the cap, you know what I mean? So
On the same thread, what are some tools that people are not taking advantage of? You just see some sellers who are not doing the right thing, and you're like, if you made this one tweak, you could probably be crushing it. Or maybe it's just a tool that, you know, when you started using it, your shop just, or your shops, your hundreds of thousands of products that you have at this point, just started doing way better.
I could talk tools all day.
Okay.
One of the benefits of having a YouTube channel, but I won't talk your ear off about it. I'll answer the question. So I talked about Amazon Seller Central Print on Demand. There's another program called Amazon Merch on Demand, which is like my favorite print on demand opportunity by far. It's an invite only program, like, so it's a little bit hard to get in, but assuming you get in and whatnot, the biggest game changing tool that has impacted my business is an upload automation tool. So prior to me knowing it existed, I manually like researched, designed, and uploaded 13,000 different, not even like, nowadays products mean something different than it used to because Amazon Merch kind of changed how that worked. Now you upload one design, you push it to like 70 different products. But back then, if you say like I made a product, that was like you did the whole process once. So I did over 13,000 manually. So I was a grinder. But I mean, I sat at my computer all day, like at work, you know, and I had a lot of spare time. I would literally use automation tools once I found out about them. I would leave my computer at home on, and I would use like Chrome remote desktop and like access my computer at home from work and just cycle the different automation tools in and out. You know, it just keeps things interesting. But yeah, so it's called Merch Titans Automation. Replace the need for me to sit there and like manually upload. That was huge. And the same people have another software now called My Designs. It's great for Etsy digital products, and they have a print on demand portion that's live now. It went live last year. And that actually integrates. So it's great. It integrates with Etsy and Shopify, but they had an integration with Merch Titans automation now. So like I can literally, I'll just give you guys like, this is my favorite thing to do right now. And it's just making me a boatload of money. I'll use Adobe Illustrator or Canva to do like design automation. You know, I can say like world's okayest and then put a whole CSV list of professions. I can automate the design process basically where it switches out the profession name, downloads it. I actually built a Chrome extension that did that, but then Canva just ripped it off natively, so we sold the Chrome extension. But fun fact there. So I'm just always trying to make money in different ways. But like you do the designs, automate it. You load them up into the software called My Designs at mydesigns.io. It's like bulk management for your designs, right? So it's like SEO in bulk. It's mockups in bulk. It can do your video mockups too for Etsy and stuff like that. On Amazon Merch though, which is my favorite opportunity, you don't need mockups. So I just use it for the SEO process. And then it integrates with Merch Titans and Merch Titans automates the uploads. And this is how I was able to offer the like done for you service that's been really just on fire lately. Honestly, it's working so well. I mentioned somebody got their first sale in like 4 days. Other people are just trending really well, man. Like doing more than like 3 sales a day after just a few months at $5 plus profit per day. So it's like, but I'm like transparent about how I do it too. You know, it's a lot of these things that I'm just like on the cutting edge of being in the know about, just as a privileged person because I started a YouTube channel.
I feel like with a lot of these things, people always just get in their head about, hey, I've got to have this, I've got to have this, I'm worried about this. One thing I could see is like you just mentioned, like Father's Day, for instance. Like if you're sitting there and maybe you're wanting to come out with products that are timely, they're chasing like different holidays and events and whatever. A, is that something you think you should or shouldn't do? And B, like if you are, like I want to come out with a Father's Day shirt, is it like, hey, you got to make sure you get it out there and this far in advance? Like how are you kind of timing the rollout of some of this stuff?
Yeah, no, another great question. So I would say like understanding the nuances of the platforms too also helps, because I love every platform. That's what kind of makes me unique from a lot of people that maybe aren't as enthusiastic about each platform. I like on Etsy, if you want to sell Father's Day, there's an equalizer in the sense of like Etsy ads does not allow you to control your bids. So if you launch a bunch of Father's Day themed and optimized products, like some Etsy seller that's been on the platform for 5 years that has 100,000 sales, they might enable ads on their Father's Day product, and you might enable your ads for Father's Day products, and you might be on the platform for a week. But you guys are probably going to pay about the same bid. You know what I mean? Because like you don't control the bid. Etsy's just going to charge you based on the general number of people. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like that's to your advantage as a smaller seller that you could take advantage of and maybe carve out a spot for you selling the Father's Day stuff on Etsy. Whereas on Amazon, it's an auction system. People that are very aggressive and understand the value of like, because every sale, whether it originated from an ad or organic, is going to factor into your organic ranking. So there's people that will operate at like a massive loss running ads on the search terms like Father's Day gift, right? Father's Day gift doesn't even say the product type. And like, or like one of my favorites is, cause I know this firsthand, is like dog treats. I was helping somebody launch their own custom dog treats, and like the suggested bid was more than $10 per click. So people are not profitable there because, you know what I mean? You're not converting that high no matter what, even on Amazon. But like operating at a loss, it doesn't matter because they're making it back on the organic ranking for ranking on those search terms. So it's like different beasts, right? So if you want to sell Father's Day, go to Etsy, and you can also get like residual sales. It's one thing to be like designing a shirt that says world's best father, right? Because you're probably only selling that for Father's Day. But there's other ways to go about it. You know what I mean? Like you might like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like one. You might say like the world's greatest dads are born in May. You know what I mean? And like you might see a bump in Father's Day sales because somebody wants to get their dad a gift in June and their dad was born in May. You get what I'm saying? So it's like almost like a residual bump, even though it's not optimized for Father's Day. There's little tricky things you can do like that.
So I know one of the biggest hangups people have with any side hustle, especially ones where it's designing something visually, is they want that first design to be perfect, and they won't rest until it is perfect in their eyes. I see this so much with printables, same thing with POD. You said you have hundreds of thousands of products. You have your buddy Chad GPT creating some subpar looking ones you just said. What's the rationale there? Like, do you not mind having products that don't sell, that might be kind of ugly, that might not be up to your like really rigid design standards? How can you rationalize this to the people out there who are sitting on the sidelines? They won't list that first product because they want it to be perfect. They're afraid of not having it be 100% perfect.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
Does that exist?
No.
Unless you're doing like, I say white text on a black shirt, centered, and just leave it at that. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
might be perfect, and that's honestly what I tell people to start with. I just say, start with just text, centered, symmetrical, white text, black shirt, or reversed. You know what I mean? And that's a great place to start because those can sell, and not everybody, like the number one bestseller in a niche often will have graphics either made by AI or, by, old school by designers, right? Can't believe those guys still exist, but I'm joking. But like, it's enough to, like, not everybody wants the graphic. It's not like you won't make a sale if you don't have a graphic. Like some people just want the text-based example. And yeah, if you chase perfection in anything, like it's dangerous. When I launched my first FBA product, I went through the research and validation process. So like starting from scratch, like go to Amazon or go to, Jungle Scout, like these software tools that try to suggest products, and just look at like do the deep dive into like who's selling it on Amazon, look at the BSRs, look at the projections, go talk to the manufacturers, input, and when you do that, you reach out to like, 8, 9, 10 of them, because not all respond. Of the ones that do, you need to get like different price points. And I just kept logging, and it's just like forever, man. Like I sucked at Excel back then too. So for me, it was just the reps. I did it for 3 months. 3 months. I probably could have been done in like 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure I found the product I ended up selling in the first month. So at the end of 3 months, I also had a coach that I paid, because I wasn't figuring it out on my own. So I paid a coach. Happy I did. He said, look, dude, how have you not launched your product yet? Like, show me your list. And I was like, I've distilled it down to like these 5, out of like probably 100 products at that point after 3 months. And he was like, all right, what about this one? I was like, what about it? He's like, just sell that one, man. So to this day, like I still have that same brand of that product, very lightweight. I don't know. I don't want to give it away, but it's in like the janitorial niche. Very random. When people ask and I tell them what it is, they just laugh. But it's just like lightweight, like cheap product that, you can charge between 20 and 25 bucks for all day. It used to have like a 30 something % profit margin. Now it's down to like below 25% because Amazon just keeps destroying you with fees, but is what it is. Still profitable though. So
one of the last questions I had on the print on demand subject was, I think a lot of people are somewhat familiar with that and thinking about like, okay, it could be on shirts, hats, totes, whatever. Like, are there some products that people don't even realize, like, yeah, you can get that print on demand, or, this is something maybe you should consider beyond just your standard tank top, sweatshirts, t-shirts, mugs?
for sure, yeah. And of those products, the one thing I'll say is like, if the seller doesn't think of it, then often the buyer doesn't think of it. So there's that, like, you know what I mean? But you can get those one sale a year type products though that way, right? Like there's products like footballs, baseballs, soccer balls. Like there's print on demand customizable of those. Things like doormats, you know what I mean? You might not think of it right away, but like a doormat would sell, you know what I mean? The little flags, like we just had high school and college graduation. Well, people who have graduation parties, like those little flags, like you can sell those all day at this time of year. I prefer more evergreen products, but just as like some product ideas, those stand out. I mean, even like AirPod cases, like they sell the ability to customize the AirPod cases. There's just so many different things. On Amazon merch, one of my favorite products to shout out, I don't know if I'll be able to show it to you, but like my little pop socket here, I have a bunch of my like little micro chihuahuas, even though they were upside down. I literally like listed that for myself and bought it for myself. And like that pop socket sells all the time on Amazon merch. And it's just like listed under long hair micro chihuahuas. I listed it so I could buy it, but like it just sits there and, it sells and, pop sockets. So there's a lot of different products.
That's hilarious. All right. Well, as we bring this interview to a close, Ryan, one, thank you for coming on. This was awesome. We have the king of making money with 3-letter acronyms, FBA, POD, all that good stuff. Where do you want to direct people? You have this monster YouTube channel, vibrant community. You're teaching people how to do this stuff. Where do you want our listeners to go to get more of this?
Yeah, start with YouTube. Ryan Hogue Passive Income on YouTube. It's free. It will remain free. And then we talked about on the show how like YouTube incentivizes us. It's not YouTube, by the way. It's people's preferences of what to watch. But like, if I do a video that says like, hey, it's a Father's Day video, it'll probably perform better than me being like, maybe if I said do not sell Father's Day, it might actually work. But
yeah,
I don't know how far in they'll watch if I start saying, no, sell these products that'll only sell once a year, because nobody wants to hear that. But like, I have a private community that I know Cody's been familiar with. You got to meet them. And it's like in the private community, we're all there for the same reason. It's to cut through the YouTube incentivized content that gets views, right? Because if nobody watches the videos, I'll stop making them. And we can just talk about like the numbers, what's working, and when I meet weekly with my private group, I show my, actual products and stuff like that. So it's actually like a pretty good, way to collaborate. I bring awesome guests on like you. And so I would say check that out. And then I also have my done for you. I have courses. I have too much, but like seriously, I'm here all day. Seriously, I sit in this chair, 10, 12 hours a day. I do have courses that kind of walk you through my process at ryansmethod.com. And I would say I have the done for you merch service, which has been like pretty popular because it's something for nothing. Literally, like you pay me and then you get a recurring passive income stream built ideally for the rest of your life using Amazon merch. Which is a pretty exclusive opportunity, but we're able to kind of, there's little ways that we can kind of buck the system and get you started and build that up pretty quickly. So, and like I said, that's been really working well in terms of the outcome through 3 months, but it's going to take like 6 to 8 months to really know. So.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for giving us some time. You're obviously an expert. It's fun to take some of those things and get super detailed, even when you're spitting off like the item numbers, the different T-shirts. Appreciate you coming on the show and giving everybody another opportunity to think about how to make some money.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Thanks, Cody. It was great, and I appreciate the opportunity. And if I did a bad job explaining things, forgive me. Check out the YouTube channel. Things go a little bit slower over there.
Sounds good.